Okay, so here's the next part of 5.1. It's going to be graphing quadratics on the calculator. So I'm just going to go through the steps of how to get the equation and find the vertex using your calculator. We did it by hand. Now I'm going to do this a little differently. Instead of being on a PowerPoint and showing the work on the board, I'm going to use the calculator. So I'm going to get out of this screen and call up my calculator on the computer. So this is going to be using the TI-84, which the commands are going to be very similar to a TI-83, the other versions of TI-84. So I'm going to go through the steps on here so you can see a couple examples. So the first equation I'm going to call up, negative x squared plus 2x plus 3. Now, a couple things. Make sure when you're plugging in a negative, you're using the negative key. Okay, there is a difference between negative and subtraction. Okay, so make sure you're doing that. Make sure you have your exponent, your x's, and just basically that the equation's plugged in correctly. My first suggestion is always to use the Zoom standard. So if you go to the up middle button in the top, hit Zoom. Zoom standard is number 6, and there's our graph. Now, we know the vertex is somewhere at this point up here. It's the very top. It's going to be a maximum since it's opening down here. Now, to find that maximum, we're going to use, up top there's a calc menu here. So if we hit second trace, goes to the calc menu. We just said that our parabola is opening down, so that vertex is the maximum value. So command number 4 here is going to help us find the max value. It's going to ask us 3 questions: left bound, right bound, and then a guess. The left and right bound is asking us where we think that maximum value is. So we're making boundaries here. So my cursor is going to start on the y-axis, and it's already on the left-hand side of the vertex. Again, I'm not exactly sure where the vertex is, but I know right now my cursor is on the left-hand side. So I'm going to hit enter once, and you can see now it goes right bound. So I'm going to use my arrows and just move the cursor somewhere over to the right-hand side of the parabola. Again, we know the vertex to be somewhere right about there. It's on the right hand, the cursor's on the right-hand side, so I'm hitting enter again. This is nice because you can see the 2 arrow points here. They give me my dashed line. So as long as my vertex is in between those 2 arrows, I know it's going to make the correct calculation for me. So the last question is guess. What they want me to do is move as close to that point of the maximum value as I can. And the reason they're asking you this is in case there's maybe more than one max value in there. There might be local maxes. We're dealing with parabolas, so we only have the absolute max there, so we don't have to worry too much about it. We don't have to get too exact. You can tell mine probably could be over a little more, but it doesn't have to be too exact for it. If you hit enter, and we have x equals 0.999989, which would round to 1. We're going to round that to a 1, and the y equals 4. So that would be our max value or our vertex, 1, 4. Okay? So we have our vertex up here, has the equation up here. And let's do another example. I'm going to hit clear to get out of there. I'm going to go back to y equals, clear that menu out. And this is going to work for any form of the equations that we're looking at. So if we're going to look at one in vertex form, let's do negative parentheses, x plus 3, close parentheses squared, plus 6. Okay, so I'm double checking my equation, negative x plus 3 squared plus 6. I'm going to go to Zoom standard, and there's our parabola. Again, it's opening down, so we're going to have a maximum value there. Hit second trace. Number 4 is for max. Now this time left bound, my cursor is all the way down here. Again, it's on the y-intercept, so I'm going to scroll over. Have to move over a good amount this time to get to the left-hand side. Okay, hit enter. There it goes, gives me my 1 boundary. Move on over to the right-hand side. There's my other boundary in the guess. Like I said, don't need to get too perfect. Hit enter. Negative 3, 6. And right there's negative 3, 6. There's our vertex. All right, and let's do one more example of intercept form. So I'm going to go to y equals, clear this out, 2 parenthesis x plus 5, close parenthesis, parenthesis x plus 1, and I'm going to do zoom 6. Okay, there it is. Now this time it's opening up. This is going to be our minimum value. Okay, so the only thing you have to pay attention to, max and min, make sure you're picking the correct one. This is a min value, so I'm going to go down to 3. Same questions. Left-hand side, so I'm going to move on over to the cursor over to the left-hand side. This time it's just going up instead of down once it's on the left-hand side. Still shows up with that line, gives us our boundary. Right-hand side, hit enter again. There's our second boundary. We know our vertex is in there somewhere. Hit enter. Negative 3, negative 8 is our vertex. Okay, so there are 3 examples there. Showed you one of each form of quadratic equation. Finding the vertex, finding the vertex, and using the max min function to find that value. It's not going to give you an exact value. I don't want you to estimate it. Let the calculator find you that value and get as close as possible. Okay, very good.